Joseph Rigsby, Technology Editor with Nearshore Americas. I'm here with Jane Siegel, Senior Scientist at Carnegie Mellon and Director at ITSQC.
Right.
How are you doing today?
Good, thanks.
Good. So in one of your recent articles, you wrote that you felt that cultural fit was a very important factor in establishing a successful nearshoring or outsourcing relationship.
Yes.
From a tactical, everyday perspective and delivering services, why does cultural fit matter?
Well, it matters for good communication. One of the key aspects about establishing trust and having a good sourcing relationship is having effective communication. And if people have similar culture in terms of religion, in terms of values, in terms of the way that they interact with each other, then that's a key part of building trust, of establishing relationships with others. And so from a tactical or an everyday business standpoint, having people you feel comfortable with who are similar to you becomes part of being able to do business effectively.
Okay. Do you feel that geographical proximity increases the likelihood that you'll have a good cultural fit?
Certainly geographical proximity is a part of it. It's also just the overall demographics. The fact that the U.S., for example, is a melting pot of many different cultures and also now has about a 40 million person population that is Spanish speaking to be served by sourcing. And if you look at the Latin American countries, there are significant similarities in terms of people coming from many different places and merging together to form a society, and of having the both English and Spanish language compatibility and the cultures. So for holidays and for religious observations and for values about family and about lifestyle in general, as well as work ethic. So the other thing that is very similar is the notion of work responsibility and ethics in the workplace, and those also come into play.
Okay. Do you feel that any amount of training can mediate some of the risk of not having a good cultural fit naturally? Are there things that can be done from a training perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, there are certainly things you can teach people, but some of the things are just innate. They're how you grow up and live your life, and how you've become used to things, and also how the education system works. So one of the big differentiators between the Asia-Pacific region and the U.S. and Latin America and even Europe is that we have an educational tradition that encourages people to question and that encourages them to be inquisitive and to not take things at face value. Whereas in many of the Asia-Pacific countries, the education system teaches you that the professor is the expert and almost a godlike figure, and so you take whatever information you're given as being the real truth. And that comes into play then when you're trying to teach people. You can certainly try to change the education system, and there are efforts to do that in India, for example, right now. But it's a very long, slow process, because if you've been conditioned from the time you're a 5-year-old child till you're through university to think and to act one way, to suddenly change that is a major undertaking.
So in terms of cultural fit, what advice would you give to a technology leader that's trying to evaluate that? Is there a specific methodology they need to be looking at? Is it just kind of a soft, it feels good to us? Are there specific things that they can, objectively
there's
evaluate?
actually some literature about cultural fit in the academic community, but some of the work that we did at Carnegie Mellon that's now part of ITSQC, which is a spin-off from Carnegie Mellon, we actually have best practices for both providers and their clients on cultural fit, on the things they should look for and how they should look at cultural fit issues, because it's a really critical part of success in sourcing relationships.
So our viewers can find that on your website on the ITSQC?
They can actually, they can get it free to download. There are practices on cultural fit, and they're in PDF files, and anyone who has a computer and an internet connection can certainly go to the website and pick up that information.